Preface. Liquid Love. One evening, while worshiping God in church, I heard myself pray, "Make our hearts like yours." I then saw a vision of what you could describe as candle making. I saw a bunch of small, empty heart molds. Then I saw a large heart filled with melted wax that was being poured into the heart molds. I knew the large heart represented God's heart, and the wax was like liquid love. God spoke to me about this image. It is His desire to pour His love into our hearts, and then for us to pour His love into others. We must be careful that our wax doesn't harden, because if it does, then we wouldn't be able to pour it out. The thing that keeps wax in liquid form is heat or warmth. We mustn't allow our hearts to get cold and hard. We must pray continually for the fire of God's love to burn inside of us. Chapter 1. Hugs Heal. I was talking with a woman with whom I had just met while standing in line at Dunkin' Donuts. She and her 6 children had made this pit stop on their way to Maine. She was sharing with me that she had packed up her kids and left her abusive husband behind in Texas. While she was sharing, I felt that God the Father was prompting me to wrap my arms around her in a hug. I didn't act on it, though, at least not yet. We continued to talk as we each ordered our coffees. As we turned to walk toward the exit door, I said to her, "I feel that God the Father wants me to give you a hug. May I?" She agreed, and so we placed our coffee cups on the condiment counter, and I wrapped my arms around her, this broken and desperate daughter of the Most High God. I held her closely, and not just for a second. I held on long enough so that God's love would be poured in through the words that He gave me, and also through the warmth of my embrace. When we separated, I said to her apologetically for doing such a strange thing, "I just felt that He wanted me to use my arms to give you a hug." She replied, "Not only that, but He also healed my heart." She then turned and walked out of the door. As I walked out of Dunkin' Donuts, I was thinking, can God heal a person's heart with a hug in only a matter of minutes? Then my mind wandered to the biblical story found in Mark 5, when the woman with the issue of blood was healed with only one touch, in a single second. What does a hug say? A hug says to me, "You are not alone. You are safe. You are loved. You are valued." When we wrap our arms around a person in the name of the Father, His love is able to pass through us just like a conduit. As our arms embrace another in His name, we are causing that person to feel what is in God's heart for them, that He loves them, that they are safe, and that they are not alone. I learned of the importance of a hug or touch when I studied child psychology in college. I was asked to read in my textbook about Harry Harlow, who studied the science of love and the nature of affection. On an experiment with monkeys, he learned that they preferred contact and comfort from a surrogate mother over food. This particular study made an impact on me at that time in my life. It caused me to reflect upon my own experiences. I was not comfortable hugging or being hugged by others. I much preferred to stay at arm's length with all people, including family members. I learned at an early age that touch is a bad thing, that touches can hurt you and scar you for life. I learned this from the people who sexually abused me as a child. On the other hand, I also learned at an early age that the lack of touch can hurt. My mother was going through a crisis in her marriage when I was in my first years. On the other hand, I also learned at an early age that the lack of touch can hurt. My mother was going through a crisis in her marriage when I was in my first years, and therefore she wasn't able to be there for me emotionally. She was also forced to work several jobs to provide for me and my siblings, so she wasn't there for me physically. I later learned how much this hurt me when in my 20s I experienced a flashback in a therapy session. I cried out with tears streaming down my face, "Don't put me down. Don't leave me," over and over. I saw myself as a baby being placed into a crib. All that I could feel in that moment was the desire to be held, to be cooed over, to be caressed, and to be made to feel that I was special. The lack of receiving love and affection through touch caused me not to feel safe or valued. It became the reason why I grew up seeking the affections of men as a teenager. I never did receive from them what I so yearned for. The only one who is able to give me all that my parents and boyfriends couldn't is God. The Bible says that God is love. It also says that we are created in His image. I believe that God created us to love and be loved. When babies are born and are not given hugs or affection, they can be diagnosed with what the medical experts call failure to thrive. Failure to thrive is when a person, most common in babies and the elderly, falls below the threshold of physical affection needed to stimulate the production of growth hormone and the immune system, and consequently, the body starts shutting down. It is a known fact that babies in orphanages have been known to die from failure to thrive, especially in third world countries where the number of orphans is high and the number of staff is low. Author Maya Salovitz wrote an article entitled, "How Orphanages Kill Babies." She states that they die from lack of love. She goes on to explain that babies' brains expect that they will experience nearly constant physical touch, rocking, and cuddling. Without it, they just don't grow. Renowned child psychologist Bruce Perry shares the same beliefs as Salovitz. In their book, Born to Love, Why Empathy is Essential and Endangered, Perry emphasizes the need for children to have human contact and experience deep relationships. He believes that this fosters an essential foundation for empathy and a caring, healthy society. He feels that difficulties related to empathy are key factors in social problems such as war, crime, racism, and mental illness. In addition, he states, even physical health, from infectious diseases to heart attacks, is deeply affected by our human connections to one another. So there you have it, scientific proof that hugs heal. They not only heal emotions, but they also heal bodies. I just might have prevented a heart attack last week with a hug. I was visiting a friend who was visibly stressed out. I sat down with her and listened to a long list of things that were going on in her life that were filling her with distress and anxiety. I didn't know what to say to her when she was through. Everything within me wanted to take away all of her problems. My response came in the form of a hug. I got up and wrapped my arms around her. I held on tightly, and as I did, I felt her deflate, more and more with each moment. It was as if pressure was being released. I could feel it physically. My friend became lighter. She was no longer weighed down with burdens in that moment. As I held her, I got an image in my mind's eye of a father carrying a little girl, his daughter, in his arms. I knew what Daddy God was saying, that he was carrying my friend in his arms. Through this gesture, he was saying, "You are not alone. I am with you. I got you. Everything is going to be okay."